You got it? Got a red light? Okay. So we'll have a recording on YouTube. And just while I'm thinking of it, we do have a school YouTube channel if you want to subscribe to it. It might help you keep up with what's going on for even some of the older students than you guys have and see some of the programs we do. Link is on our website, or it's just Mr. Fry LCA, MRFRY LCA is the name of the channel. I post things on it whenever we have special events. So something that you can do. But we'll have this on it for those who are helpful, who would miss it, and it would be helpful for them. I do appreciate you making time to be here. And I want to say right as we start, one of the important things about tonight, there's a lot of details we're going to give you. I don't know if it's something you want to take notes on or whatever as things apply to you. But it's a little bit, have you heard the expression about taking a drink from a fire hydrant? That's maybe what it's going to feel like. We'll try to explain things carefully. We're going to go through a lot of details tonight about how things work, the nuts and bolts of being successful here at Latham Christian Academy. Before we start, though, I would like to open in a word of prayer and ask God's blessing on our time together. So I'd like to ask if you would bow with me for a word of prayer. Our dear Lord, thank you so much for the privilege of being entrusted with our children. And Lord, I pray that you would work in their hearts and lives in this coming school year, and that you would use our time here at LCA, that these children would grow into your nurture and admonition. They would be more like you as a result of the time they spend in their classes throughout this school year. We pray for a safe school year and a good school year. We dedicate now this orientation time to you and ask that you would be glorified in it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, let me start off with some introductions. One of them just left. She'll come back. I want to introduce a few people to you that you will get to know throughout the year. And I'll start with Mrs. Sandy Haddon. Mrs. Haddon is our K-3 aide. Would you stand so everybody knows who I'm talking to there? This is Mrs. Haddon. And then we'll have Mrs. Mansfield stand with her. Mrs. Mansfield is the K-3 lead teacher. And so those of you who have K-3, you'll be working with Mrs. Mansfield and Mrs. Haddon this year. Then I'll introduce to you my wife. Where is she? There she is, Mrs. Fry. Dee Fry is our K-4 teacher, teaching half of the K-4 students. I think the rosters are out there, so you know, if you don't know already which of the sections you're in, just to be a short form, we say K-4A and K-4B. There is no superiority to A. There's no inferiority to B. It's just A and B. A is Mrs. Fry's class. And then Mrs. Greaves stepped out. When she's back, I'll have her come. She is the K-4B teacher. I'll have a couple other people stand in the back there. Mrs. Rourke. Deb Rourke is our extended session. If your children are staying into the afternoon, they'll be with Mrs. Rourke or with Mrs. Greaves as well. We'll have some of them. And then I'll ask Mrs. Kettlewood. Patty Kettlewood is our school secretary. She's the one who will answer the phone and answer any questions you have. There's Mrs. Kettlewood for you. Get to know her. Literally, there is not a question she can't answer. So ask her, and she will be able to help you with those. And then I'd like to introduce Mrs. Mean. Betty Mean has been at our school for a long time. And if Mrs. Kettlewood can't answer it, Mrs. Mean can. Most of you already know Mrs. Mean from meeting with her during the interview process. But definitely, she's a great resource, too. And I can answer. I'm going to put you on the spot, Mrs. Mean. Parenting questions. 6 children? 6 children. How many grandchildren? 13. How many great-grandchildren? 3. So she's a resource. If you have a question or a problem, Mrs. Mean, you can see her. She oversees our kindergarten and elementary programs here as assistant administrator. My name is Brian Fry. I am the school administrator here. I've been here since 2010, and it really is my privilege to work with this excellent staff that we have here. Certainly, I'm happy to answer any questions I can. You'll see emails from me. If nothing else, the emails have my name on them. Sometimes even when I don't send them, the system puts my name on them. So that's kind of one of my roles I have, but I certainly oversee the school, and I'm happy to help you in any way I can as well. And then, Mrs. Greaves came back. Mrs. Greaves, she is the other K-4 teacher that many of your children will have this year as well. All right, let me go through just a few announcements here in general. First of all, those of you who were here last year or other years, you know a lot of work has been done around the building. We've taken time to make sure everything from our floors being cleaned nicely to our gym floor, everything looks beautiful. But one thing some of you may have noticed right when you came in, we have brand new doors, beautiful new doors that are just wonderful compared to what we had before. Now, part of the thing about this doors, and this is important that you understand, these doors will be locked during the school day. This is something new for us, and it is a security. Unfortunately, the time period we're in our culture, we need to keep our doors locked during the school day. So if you, the doors will lock at 8:20, by the way, and this really is important. In fact, while I'm thinking of it, I'll come more to this later, but you all should have received a form that looks something like this in the mail in August, earlier this month. If you did not, our teachers have another one they can give you, or if you want to return it to them, if you haven't already returned it, you can give it to the teachers or to Mrs. Kettlewood. It really is important you're here by 8:20, and I'll talk more about that. That's one of the things you're agreeing to. We don't have a daycare program here. It actually is a school program, and it causes both a disruption to others when students come in late, and your child is missing out as well on some of the program. We start at 8:20, and so we ask, please, that you're here no later than 8:20. But if you come in after that time, the door's going to be locked. You're going to have to be buzzed in by Mrs. Kettlewood there at the front door. So we don't want you to have to do that either. And after 8:20, you're not allowed to go down to the classrooms. You have to meet us in the hallway. We have to take your child down. So it's just really, really important you're here by 8:20 every day. But if you do need to get in, you've seen there's a box outside the door, and Mrs. Kettlewood or one of us can buzz you into the building at that point. But that is to hopefully increase some of the security we have here, kind of manage who's in the building better. Certainly we ask as well, this is for security. If you do come in later in the day, now in the morning, this is not, it's unlocked until 8:20. From 7:30 to 8:20, it's unlocked. But don't let people in you don't know. If you're buzzed in and somebody comes in behind you, at least let us know. We really do want to keep a secure environment here. That's important to us. We believe caring for the physical safety of your children is one of our highest priorities. So help us with that. Don't try to block the door open or anything like that. It'll close on its own. We appreciate the help for that. Now, if you didn't know this already, our first day of school is next Wednesday. And the first day of school is always a crazy day. Let me tell you in advance something. The parking lot will be chaotic that first day. I have our maintenance man, Jonathan Coonrod. Mr. Coonrod will be with a bright vest in the parking lot trying to direct you. But because so many parents stay around that first day, they don't just drop their child off and leave, it usually takes more spots than we have out there. And so I just ask on the first day for your patience. I promise you it won't be like that after the first day. But on the first day of school, just if you have to park on the side or differently, we just ask, please be patient with us. It'll get better. On the first day, though, you may bring your child down to the classroom. You may stay a minute or two, certainly with your child, get them acclimated. But I know one of the hardest things is you hear your child crying as you leave, and you want to turn around and go back to them. I know how hard that is. I have 3 of my own. I understand. But let me just promise you something. And teachers, you can nod your head because we know this is true. Once you get out of sight and they get with their friends, they will stop crying. I know you don't see that because you hear them crying as you leave and they're crying, Daddy, Mommy, come back. You get around the corner. By the time you are to our front door, they're going to be playing with their new friends. All right? And so just be confident in that if there is a problem, we'll call you. We'll let you know. But one of the hardest things is to leave, but it's one of the most helpful things for your child and for us. And starting the second day, we're not going to allow anyone to stay beyond 8:20. At 8:20, we'll make sure all the parents got to get moving down the hall again. But on the first day, you may bring your child down, help them get oriented, give them a hug, take a picture with the teacher if you want, whatever it is you want to do the first day. Oh, the teachers are saying no. But do that. But then if you can, let them go. We'll call you if there's any issues or problems. Don't worry about that. We'll let you know. We do ask that especially the first week of school, not to arrive before 8 o'clock. You can arrive as early as 7:30, and I know for some of you that'll be really important in the year. But here's what happens. If you come in between 7:30 and 8, the children are down in the gym, down in a lunchroom. They can't go to their classrooms because our staff, we meet together in the mornings from 7:30 until a little before 8. We have a time of prayer and devotions together. We share announcements, these kind of things during this time together. We have teachers who are on duty in the hallway and on duty in there to supervise them. But it's just harder for that first week when they're not used to their classroom yet to have to go down there. So it'd be a real help to us until they get oriented and get used to it. If they could come in between 8 and 8:20, and then as they're more comfortable with the whole building and the rest of the staff, if you have to be at work, and certainly you have to bring them anytime between 7:30 and 8, you'll just be directed into the gym to take them into our gymnasium. Oh, let's see. Oh, I've got a couple things here. One thing, you should have received an email from me. Many of you probably received two, both in July and August, about our school management system called Sycamore. This is an online system, and as the year goes on, it'll be more and more useful. I realize there's not a lot on it right now, for those of you who are new especially, but I went on earlier today. There it goes. I took a picture. There's the fries page. All right, my children are like, no, stop. Don't put that up there. But I put that up there. This is what you'll see once you log in. If you have trouble logging in, I am the administrator for that, so contact me. All of you have my email address. You get so many things from me. Just choose one of them and reply to it, and let me know you're having trouble with Sycamore, and I'll help you get in. That starter password is ridiculous, isn't it? Have you guys seen that? It is the worst starter password company I've ever seen. They put exclamation points and numbers and @ signs and tildes, everything go in there. I can change that. If you email me, I can change it to something like ABCDE as a starter password for you. That's a lot easier. But what you'll notice is your username will be the first 3 letters of your last name followed by a 4-digit number. I can't change that. The system sets that up for you. And then your password, of course, is you set the first time you log in. You'll set it. But one of the things you'll see once you get in is there's lots of different things that are information on there. There'll be things about our lunch if your child stays through lunchtime, the lunches we have for that day. You can check, I think all of you post your snack calendar. Mrs. Mansfield, did you put yours on there too? So all three put the snack calendar. You can look at the calendar and it'll have, if you forget, what day am I supposed to bring snack? It'll be on Sycamore and you can check that on there. Certainly you can keep up with some of the financial things that are, your account for the school is on there. There's information about contacting teachers. So there's a lot of information that will be on there. When we start sending our newsletters out in a couple of weeks, you can look at old editions of the newsletter. I mean, it's the source of information online. I had a few years ago, one of our K-4 families, actually, they do hundreds, if not thousands, I'm sure, of schools that work with Sycamore, and one of our families found a security loophole a couple of years ago, and we emailed them right away, and they got it fixed. Said they should have paid that family for that, for finding that. The white hat hackers, they should have paid them. But this is a very valuable system, and I trust it will be throughout the year for you. Just a reminder about payments. Payments are due by the 10th day of each month. If it falls on a weekend, we go till Monday. There is a late fee if money is not paid. Just if something comes up, at least give us a call. We're not out to try to make money off late fees, trust me. Give Mrs. Kettlewood a call and say, hey, this came up, let us know what your plans are, and that's fine. But please, if you do have money to give us, Mrs. Kettlewood will be in the school office at the end of the night, and you can drop off payments. If you have any of the other paperwork, like you brought this with you, you can drop that off for Mrs. Kettlewood as well at the end of the night. All right, next, this is very important you pay attention because I mentioned the parking lot once already. I'm going to talk about the parking lot again. It is amazing this is like one issue that I get lots of comments about. Fix the parking lot. Usually it's one person who messes it up for everybody. If we all work together, the first day, forget the first day. But starting on the second day, it can be really smooth out there if we all work together. All right, this is kind of a map. The problem is our parking lot is tall. The PowerPoint screen is wide. So this is not to scale in any way. But I want you to kind of look at this a little and see what you're supposed to do. There's so many lines on there, it's crazy. I know, I should have done one set at a time. But when you come in, this is our driveway. When you come in, we want you to go all the way around, make a left, come all the way around. This is where our little shed, we have a little shed out there, the dumpster. I hate to use the dumpster as a landmark, but the dumpster's out there right over here. Come in, go this way, and you can park at any of this parking here. There's a lot more than it looks like. When you're out there tonight, there's a lot more. What we ask is you don't pull just straight ahead. If you just pull straight ahead, there's several problems. Number one, that's what our buses do. The buses, and I know you guys don't get bus transportation, but we have, Mrs. Mean, 15 to 20 buses that come in here every day. You don't want to be caught behind them, and you don't want them mad at you. And you got a bus driver mad at you? All right? they're big. They get revenge. They're big vehicles. Just don't stay in this at all. And then when you leave, come out this way. All of these are one way. So when you come back out, this is one way out. That kind of center aisle is one way out. Don't try. You're like, oh, I see a parking spot right here, and you try to whip into that. Probably that person who you just cut off is going to be calling me and complaining. So if you would be a big help, it's a great spot. Pull all the way around and pull into it. There's a lot of traffic coming in and out of here in the mornings. And really the number one thing we're concerned about is the safety of students. And for that's the reason we don't allow any parking along here. I'm going to have cones set up blocking it. Please don't park where there's cones. The reason for that is it is so hard to back out of those spots when there are students walking behind it. All right, you understand? That's why we blocked those off. Before they were blocked off, we had kind of scary situations here, some close things. People would back out and just about come close to students. And there are a couple spots that are not blocked off right in here. They're handicap parking. Please don't park there if you're not qualified to do that. The Colony Police, we do ask them to come in and make rounds through our parking lot for safety's sake. They can give tickets for that. Please don't park in the handicapped unless you need to. And we want to save those spots if you need to. But here's the hard thing, and one of the scariest things that happened since I've been here. We had a young child almost hit. It was pouring down rain one day, and somebody who was not handicapped pulled into this handicap spot right by the door here, and then tried to whip out. They were in a hurry. There was a bus behind them, and they tried to whip out, and they didn't even look, and there was a child right on the other side of them. So that's why we just prefer we don't use this front row at all. If you'll help me with that, I know it's such a long walk. Just walk your child in. It'll be safer for everyone. The other part about this is there will be families of older children who will drop them off, and I'll explain more about that on Thursday when they're here for their orientation. But we allow drop off along here. They'll pull off against the cones, the rope that's there, and they'll allow their children to get out. Don't stop there. That's not a parking area. It's just a drop off. You guys, your children are young. You have to bring them in. Some of the elementary or even high school families will just stop there long enough to let their children get out, and then they can keep right on going out the exit. One more thing about the parking lot. Please don't park in areas that are not marked parking places. We have people want to make new spots. Here's where this happens. Right in here, people try to add one more spot. It looks like there ought to be room. There's a reason they're not, and their buses is the number one reason. If you try to make extra spots there, it's very hard for cars to get around. So please, if you could help me out and park where we're supposed to. Starting the second day of school, there really is plenty of parking. We do open up some spots up here as well, in front of where the staff park. It's not all blocked off, and you'll see that on the first day. There's about, maybe 8 to 10 spots there that are open as well. If you have questions about that, please see me. And if you get frustrated, don't get mad at each other. We'll try to get it solved as the year goes on. One other thing about the parking lot, I'm glad I looked at my notes. We have a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit. I know that that's slow, but can I tell you why we have the 5-mile-an-hour speed limit? It's all of these little guys in here. 5 miles an hour is slow. It's not just our students. Most of you have noticed Shaker Junior High School is right beside us, and right beside them is Shaker High School. There's a development, a residential community right over here. Lots and lots of junior and senior high kids cut across our parking lot to go to school. They walk right across our parking lot and across this field here to go to the junior and senior high school. If you start speeding through that part, you're like, nobody's up here by our pastor's house is the parsonage up here. Oh, I can just zip up here at 15, 20 miles an hour. That's where the high school kids are constantly walking across. We want to keep them safe as well. They're not our students, but we want them to be safe. So if you can just keep that in mind, 5 miles an hour, I know it's slow. Please abide by it though. Everybody will be safer as a result. I have another number you may want here. A couple things about extended session. This is specifically if you are staying after 3 o'clock, between 3. One change we have is we are, thanks to Mrs. Rourke being able to do this for us, we are going to be available until 5:45, not 5:30. So 5:45 you can stay until. It is $5 an hour, and we just bill by the minute for that. After 5:45, though, I'm sure Mrs. Mean told you this during the interview, What does it cost? So, this is audience participation. What does it cost after 5:45? $1 a minute. We don't want to bill you that, but Mrs. Rourke has to go home. She has a husband. She has at least one child at home, sometimes more, at home with her. She has to get home for them. She has 2 adult daughters, and sometimes at least one of them is there as well with her. Her son is, a junior this year here at LCA? She has responsibilities at home too. So please be considerate. I always recommend this, traffic was so bad. Have a backup plan. If you're caught at work, have a friend, a neighbor, a family member, or maybe all 3 that are able, that you can call and say, can you go get my child? This is an unusual situation. Because if we have to stay beyond 5:45, it's $1 a minute, and we really can't, we don't have coverage beyond that. Mrs. Rourke needs to go home. So help us out with that. There is a number though. This is not for routine questions. Please don't use this for, what time is the concert, or what's going on at school? What's the lunch tomorrow? But if you need to get a hold of Mrs. Rourke, there is a contact number. You can text her. This is a cell phone that she carries with her when she's in extended session, and that's the number. It is different than last year, so if you had the old number, change it to this. There's a new number, but if you want to put that in, that is 518. Of course, we're all dialing 10 numbers now, right? 518-852-8985. 518-852-8985. If you want to put that in your cell phone, that is not a number you call for regular questions, but something comes up and you need to let Mrs. Rourke know something unusual is happening, and you want her to be aware of it, okay? Or whoever is in extended session if she's not that day, okay? Capcom, school banking. Let me explain something about this here. Mrs. Rourke, one of her other jobs or volunteer things she does, we want to teach children about saving, the importance of saving money. This is a totally optional thing you could do. Some of you are familiar with Capcom, the credit union in our area. We have partnered with them for a program called School Banking. All of our students from K-3 up to 12th grade can participate in this, and each Tuesday, right, Mrs. Rourke? Each Tuesday morning, you can send in a penny, you can send in a quarter, you can send in $1. Just let them know it's for school banking, and it's a good way for children to start to see savings develop. So as part of our teaching children to save, that she participates in that each Tuesday. She has more information. If at the end you'd like to see her about that, she can give you do have to sign up ahead of time for it, and they'll actually establish an account at Capcom. But you work with her. There are some rules, post 9/11, all the rules that we have now about banking. But she'll work with you. It's set up through them, but it's a neat way to help your children learn about saving. So when you hear about school banking, you can understand what that is. That will begin on Tuesday the 19th. Is that right, Mrs. Rourke? The 19th is when you're beginning. Tuesday, September 19th. So you can register between now and then the children can start saving that day. All right, I did mention this. Remember, we need what we call a statement of understanding. Just quickly, there's several things about this, and I know you all got this with Mrs. Mean. Let me just remind you how important it is. Your students, children, do have to be totally potty trained. We're not a daycare here. We don't have facilities for that. We understand an occasional accident may happen. That's why Mrs. Mean is going to come in a minute or two and talk about a change of clothes. But you have to understand that we can't have children who aren't potty trained here, and they can't wear pull-ups or diapers of any kind to be here. They also have to be able to use the toilet unassisted. You're understanding that. We can't help them. Now, we understand sometimes they may have trouble getting their pants back up or getting something hooked on a jumper or whatever. We understand that. That's not what we're talking about. But in actually doing what they need to do, they have to be able to be unassisted. Then we also talked about eating. They have to be able to eat unassisted. By this, we don't mean that we can't open, what are those awful Go-Gurt things? We're not talking about that. Or opening their thermos for them or something. That's not what we mean. But by actually, we're not going to pick up the fork and put it in their mouth. We can't do that. Again, we're in a school program, so be sure your children are getting used to that if they're not already, that they can do that themselves. The other thing is we can't force them to finish their food. Every year we get questions. Can you make my daughter finish? Can you make my son finish his meal? No, we really can't. What we'll do, though, we will give them undistracted time, that's plenty of time to eat, and we will send home what they don't eat. So you will know what didn't get finished. But we can't actually say, no, you can't go on recess till you finish your food. We just don't have the facilities to be able to do that. And we've had some, the parents really send a lot of food, more than they probably can eat in their little bodies. Rice expands. Some of you know how that works. We've had some, you open the thermos and rice comes out and keeps coming. So just, we'll let them eat. We'll leave them undistracted time where they're quiet and eating, and then we'll send home what they don't finish so you can get a feel if they ate enough. As the parent, you're the one who ultimately knows that anyway, better than any of our teachers would. Another paper. This is like the world's smallest print. This is like 7-point font on this form. But there's a form that your child's teacher has. Now, do any of you have a child that's older than K4 in here tonight, that's coming to our school, it's above K4? I don't know, if any of you do, the oldest child's teacher has this. So some of you, it won't be till Thursday night that you'll get this. But this is a form. We want you to get this from your child's teacher and check the information on it. There's lots of things on here that we want you to look at. Make sure all the names are spelled properly. I'm not trying to be mean here, but some of you got to work on your handwriting, all right? And I know Mrs. Mean is looking at me. It's the pot calling the kettle black. But we try very hard to spell everything right. But there's times Mrs. Kettlewood and I are holding up those applications like, is that a P? Is that an O? What is that? If we spelled something wrong, correct it on this form and give it back to either your child's teacher or to Mrs. Kettlewood, and we'll get it fixed. There's another area where there are contacts. The contacts are really important for two reasons. Number one, if your child is sick or, God forbid, gets hurt during the day in some way, we need to be able to call you. Please make sure that we have an alternate contact, at least one that we can do. Check your own cell phone number. Many families today that only have one number, a cell phone number. And if you leave that cell phone at home or the battery is dead or something, we call it, we can't get a hold of you. We really need a second number. But there's a second reason this is important as well. These are the list of people that are allowed to pick up your child, is this. If you are new, there's probably no names there for you new families. That means nobody but mom and dad can pick up the child. We will ask for ID in extended session when you come in. And so we need to know who those are. Mrs. Rourke has a laptop out with her that lists, when you come to pick up the child, it just pops up with a list of all the people that are allowed to pick them up. If there is someone else, we talked about having an emergency, you get caught at work late, traffic is bad, put those names on here so we know ahead of time who can pick up your child. And again, your child's safety is very important to us. So we want to make sure that only those you trust are picking up your child. So that's what this section is for. I have 3 other names on mine that I'll have to pick my child. This is mine. I grabbed mine here earlier today. A couple things you don't have to worry about. The medical information at the bottom, we're not going to call your child's doctor. That can be blank, that's fine. And then the other area is up at the top. It has a thing, do you want your personal information published? No matter what that says, we don't share. We will never share your personal information without your direct permission. That's, by the way, a reminder. Don't call us and say, can I get the email addresses of all the children in my child's class? Sorry, we can't do that. There's too many people that are concerned or want phone numbers. So if some of the boxes aren't checked, don't worry about it. By policy, we don't share that information anyway. But pick one of these up, look through it. If it's okay, write okay on it. Do something so we know you've seen it and give it back to us. But this is very important that we have that and can look through. Check birthdays. Boy, there's times we have birthdays wrong. And we really want to have your child's birthday the right day, you know? So check through and make sure it's all there on that. Let's see. Medication. If your child is on a medication, maybe the child is sick and is on some kind of medication, that must be sent to our office. Your child cannot medicate himself. We have that for a lot of reasons. It's just not a good idea. You need to drop that off in the office with Mrs. Kettlewood, and it must be in the original pharmacy package with directions on it. So if you're going to split it up in 2 containers, you keep the other container, send us the one from the pharmacy. So we know what we're giving to the child and what the proper dosing restrictions are. So that needs to go to Mrs. Kettlewood. Some of you, if your child's just on a routine medicine they have to take every day and they have to do it while they're at school, again, be sure Mrs. Kettlewood gets that information. It's very important that we know that. Secondly, if your child has a serious allergy, we have a form called an allergy action plan we need you to fill out. We will keep this on file. This is a very important document if your child's allergic to peanuts, allergic to, give me something else that we have. Eggs, whatever. If your child has an allergy we need to know about. Here's the other thing. If on the bottom of it there's any prescription medicine they're supposed to be given, including an EpiPen, some of you have an EpiPen that you're allergic to a bee sting or something like that. If your child has that, we do ask your doctor to sign off on it as well. We need to know, how serious is it? If your child comes in contact with peanuts, do we need to call 911 or do we need to call you? Because there's different levels of allergies. You all understand that. We need to know what to do. This form is very important if your child has an allergy. Please get one of these from your child's teacher and fill it out. And if it involves prescription medicine, get your doctor or nurse or somebody at the doctor's office to sign it. So again, we're all on the same page and we're doing what you expect to be done if that happens. This is an important paper. Some of you may have dietary preferences or medical reasons for your child, for example, being vegetarian. If you would let your teacher know, we will do our best to honor that, certainly, but we can only honor it if we know. So we understand that many of our families do prefer vegetarian only. Some will say that chicken is okay, but red meat is not. If that is true, all we want you to do is please write a note with your child's name on it and give it to your child's teacher. We will also keep that on file so we have a complete list so that Mrs. Kettlewood will know in the office, your child's teacher will know if anything comes up. So if you have a dietary either restriction or preference for your child, please, again, let your child's teacher know. Just write a little note, be sure your child's name is on it, and indicate what that diet restriction is. And we'll do our best to make sure, again, that everyone is aware of that. All right, how am I doing here? Okay, I think it's Mrs. Mean's turn now. I got to come back for a couple things in a minute, but at least for variety's sake, I'll introduce our assistant administrator, Mrs. Mean. Yeah, there you go.
Hi. Again, my name is Mrs. Mean, and I'm so glad to see all of you. I've met most of you, or if not all of you. And in fact, I met a father in Walmart a couple nights ago, and he was so excited that it's our turn. He said, I can't wait for vacation to be over. I'm tired. And so I know some of you are looking forward, and we're looking forward to having your children again. I just want to cover a few things with you. I'm going to do it as quickly as I can because I know our little ones are getting a little restless at this point. First of all, I want to cover snack. The children do have snack each day, and you will be on a snack calendar, as I've talked with all of you about. And we do ask that it would be nutritious, first of all, so we ask you to stay away from donuts, chips, cupcakes, and things like that. And we ask that it's nutritious. For a lot of our children, it's the first good meal they've had of the day. A lot of them have a hard time eating when they get up that early in the morning, especially after summer, when they've been able to wake up at 10 and have their breakfast then. So it's a little hard for them. So we do ask for nutritious. For our little ones, especially our 3 and 4-year-olds, we ask that it's easy for them to do. The teachers will let you know more, but like goldfish, animal crackers, things that are easy for them to pick up. And later you can bring a little bit more complicated things. Again, no cookies or donuts or chips or anything like that. And also our teachers have asked that our 3 and 4-year-olds have asked for water instead of juice. If you really want juice for your child on that juice on their snack day, they can, but we prefer water. And we ask that you bring a refillable water bottle. At that point, a lot of our Indian families especially, they like warmer water, and that way your child will be able to have that warm water. So at snack time, they will be able to just get their water bottle and then have that. But if you really want them to have snack and it's your snack,